And both of those are about recognizing the presence of blessings right where you are and that they're there. And this last week and a half, in particular the day I went to the hospital, I felt that so profoundly. I went in, and the next thing I knew, they were starting IVs and doing monitors and drawing blood and doing all kinds of things. And it was so strange being on the patient side instead of the nurse, minister, chaplain side of things. And I found myself, though, settling into peace, be still. It's just peace. God is with me. The divine is here. These people who are helping are the very presence of the divine in human form that are here to take care of me and everyone else who comes in this day. And so that peace be still mantra was one that reminded me of that presence of birdsong that's there all along. Whether or not I can hear it with my physical ears, my spiritual ears can always tune in to that. And I was there for about 6 hours before they put me in the ambulance that night and took me to Silverdale. And at one point, the lights were down, and I had been praying and meditating, and then I got out my Kindle, which luckily I had brought with me, and I started reading a novel that I'm working on. And suddenly, I felt this presence, and I literally just closed and put down my Kindle and opened. And Michael McKee, our beloved Michael, was as though he was standing at the door, giving me a blessing, and he said, "All's well. It's going to be okay. All's well." And then he faded, and I just stayed in prayer and meditation for a while, receiving the blessings of that realization that we are held lovingly by the people that we love and that love us in profound ways that transcend time and space and death. As the scripture promises, that love always exists and abides with us through everything. And then as they loaded me in the ambulance and we started on the road, I ended up shifting from Peace Be Still into Simon's Archangel song and picturing the archangels and the angels and masters and all of you just surrounding and enfolding me. And it was the most wonderful sense of being literally, I felt blanketed in prayers. And as we went over the Hood Canal Bridge with the clickety-clack, it was like the flutter of wings. I remember just thinking it's absolutely present. That unsung, that unseen presence is here. That unheard bird song I can hear with my soul and my spirit. It is here. One of the things that I've been working on this last year or so in the midst of COVID and in the midst of all of the other things that have gone on in our world with a wild election and a lot of division and conflict, social awakening and unrest, all of the different people that have gone back to spirit or that have had health challenges this last year, all of this, through this, I found myself asking Spirit to teach me more about what pray without ceasing looks like. What is that? Because I know that I can't just be seated in a chair in conscious prayer all of the time, and yet we're all called to pray without ceasing. And I've come to believe that that's something that it is being connected to that presence of God. I'll be talking about Joseph from the Old Testament in a little while. And it was this amazing thing that the Lord was with him. Whatever happened, he has all kinds of things happen, but the Lord was with him. The Lord would bless him. The Lord showed him love. And I thought that is simply an awareness of that divine presence. It's grace. And there are times to manifest it out in the world, which we did the first 6 weeks of the pandemic. I got guidance that pray without ceasing and holding one another together as a spiritual community. At that point, that needed to look like a meditation each day at high noon. And we did it 6 days a week, and then we did our service on Sunday, and we did that for 5 or 6 weeks. And then again around the election, the guidance was do it outwardly manifested. And so we did it once again, where we did it every day of the week. And that was such a wonderful way to connect. And then I found that with the things that all of you have gone through as I've held you in prayer, I've always opened to just receiving whatever is coming and to hold you all in prayer. I wake up sometimes around 2 or 3 in the morning. At this age, sometimes physical body wakes me up, but spirit will sometimes awaken me, usually around 3. And sometimes I know who it is I need to be praying for, holding in the light, praying without ceasing for. Sometimes I just sense that there is someone somewhere in the world that needs me to notice and to just offer my loving support from afar and just trust that it goes to where and to whom it needs to go. And recently, one of my dearest, dearest friends had surgery. And as I was praying for her, I got this image. And it's, you know, the spinning prayer wheels of Tibet, where you start it and then the wind keeps it spinning and spinning within the wheel. And people will walk by and they'll bump the wheels and get them spinning again and keep them spinning. It's a communal thing as well as an individual thing. And I pictured a Tibetan spinning prayer wheel in my heart. And that it's spinning all the time. And that when I can consciously tap it and increase the spin, but it spins and it's there. And it's like heartbeat and breath. And I believe that that spinning prayer wheel that spins all the time is not just in our heart, our physical heart that we talk of, it's in our high heart. That is the new chakra that's really emerging now, that's about compassion and heart wisdom and unconditional love. And I realized that's what Jesus was talking about when he and then Paul expressed it as praying without ceasing. Be connected to that divine presence all the time. And so when I go into prayer and meditation, it is just to consciously join that prayer wheel as it spins with my energy. Our physical bodies, we have a heartbeat, we have breath, and we know that breath is an important part of most spiritual traditions, that in-breath and out-breath. And it's said that each breath is a recommitment to be present in the world. Each breath is a presence. And then underlying that is this heartbeat that is ever going on, and more aware of that than ever before after this last week, that heartbeat that constantly goes. And you don't wear your heart, the high heart, or your physical heart, or your lungs on the outside of your body. They're within. They're that link from the outer world and that inner presence of the divine. The inner parts and workings of your body are like links and connections. Can you imagine what it would be like if we had to remind our heart to beat and our lungs to breathe? It happens automatically. It's like the presence of the divine. It is ever there. And there are times you notice the heartbeat, you notice the breath, but it goes on unceasingly. And so I now use breath work and spinning of the prayer wheel in my high heart as praying without ceasing. And so that's something I invite you all to try. I never recommend something until I've worked with it and practiced with it to see, does this work? And this works. This works. And as I did the Peace Be Still chant, and as I sang the Archangel chant, all of those things were spinning the wheel in a way. And all of your prayers were enfolding me and doing that as well. And so it's that recognition of the underlying presence of the divine with every heartbeat and every breath. We're not separate from it. And when we connect with that, we find a deep inner knowingness, gnosis, deep knowing that abides within us. In the Old Testament, it's said, it is writ upon their hearts, the truth, that presence. It's writ upon your heart. It's there with you wherever you go. Each heartbeat carries that presence of the divine that's writ upon your heart, all through your body and expressing out through you into the world. And so this deep inner knowing is something that we use prayer, meditation, mantras to connect with. Some of us chant, some of us sing, do music to connect with that. Some of us go abide in nature or go for a walk to connect with that. But it's connecting with that deep inner knowing. And another way to connect with that is through the dream world, which is what the theme is this month. It's about the practice of dreaming as a link between the manifest world and the unseen realm of possibilities. And so we talked some Sunday before last about dreams, and we'll be doing it some more next Sunday. It's really fascinating, and I love the way it's used as a spiritual practice, because truly it is. It is a spiritual practice of being willing to release the outer and to embrace the inner. And the inner is not as linear. It tends to go in circles. It goes backwards and forwards. And it invites us to work with what's going on in our outer lives in a deeper inner way, so that we can notice our connection to the divine in one another. We can find the blessings that are hidden in the midst of challenges we are experiencing. We can be there for ourselves and for one another in profound ways. And dreams give us hints, guidance, inspiration as to what our soul is working on that we can then integrate into our outer lives. As I said last week, to interpret dreams is something that I think is done in the best way possible when you do it at a spiritual level. And you do it with the wisdom of your own heart and your own soul. It's helpful to look up in books what the symbolism of things are. That's absolutely part of the practice. But the essential moment comes when you take those symbols, those messages, and you ask, how does this spin the prayer wheel? How does this expand out into my life in ways that will change me and my world into higher and better energies? Christine says, dreams continue to call us in ways of being that are less linear and more intuitive, less goal-driven, and more open to receive the gifts that are offered to us in the moment. It's about being present. And I'm doing a series with her called The Spiral Way, with the Celtic Christianity, Celtic spirituality, and creativity. And it's been on Mondays, and it was perfect because I had done that Monday before last, and then in the afternoon ended up going to the hospital. And what we did in that morning in that class absolutely abided with me. And then this last Monday, I went back on and was able to do it. And she talked about the importance of being aware of rhythms in your life, flows in your life. And she talked about how our culture is about outer manifestation. It's about action. It's about doing things. But that equally important is the seasons of winter where you're not doing as much. You're allowing yourself to be. You're replenishing. You're diving deep into your dream life, into your soul for guidance and inspiration. And she said, our culture loves summer. It doesn't honor the winter process as much naturally. And so this is an important thing for us to incorporate. She said that our culture with its summer attitude produces unrelenting pressure to produce. Identify with that one. Unrelenting pressure to produce. The spiritual world and path is meant to be one of some time of activity, but equally of moon time, of inner process, and our dream lives are an important part of that. The Bible mentions dreams over 95 times, predominantly in the Hebrew scriptures of the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament. And there are two characters that I love. They're both named Joseph, and these are the ones she includes in the chapter that her husband speaks of. And Joseph in the Old Testament is the famous one that's the favorite child of Jacob, and he has the coat of many colors. The New Translation calls it the coat with the long sleeves, which none of us like as much as the coat of many colors. But he is the beloved child, and his brothers are really jealous of him. They just can't believe how much he's their father's favorite. And so he's one that has dreams. And he shares a dream that he has with his brothers and said, I had a dream where there were sheaves of wheat and they all bowed down to me, and it was all of you bowing down to me. You can imagine how that went over with his brothers. And then he has another dream, and the moon and the sun bow down to him. And he said that was like the mother and the father. And they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's completely egotistical. What in the world is he talking about? Well, he was having a foreshadowing dream. And it also reminds you of the importance of working with your dreams at a spiritual level and not at an outer interpretation and judgment level. Because it was a spiritual dream with a spiritual message, and his outer using of it with his brothers caused them to get so mad. They threw him in a pit when they went out. They were going to originally kill him, and one of the brothers says, we can't do that. So they put him in a pit. And then one of the brothers goes back and said, well, we can't leave him out here because he'll probably die. So they sell him to slavery. And so he's sold off into slavery, is carried all the way to Egypt. He becomes very successful working for a merchant. And then the merchant's wife thinks he's really attractive and decides she wants to seduce him. And he says no, but she blames him. And so he goes from being wildly successful, the Lord was with Joseph, to being in prison. He was blamed and thrown into prison. But the scripture continues to say the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. And so in the prison, Joseph begins to dream and connect with dreams. And two of the Pharaoh's court heads are sent down to prison. And they've each had a dream. And the jailer, who knows Joseph and has worked with him, says, there's this guy who'll interpret your dreams for you. So he does that, interprets their dreams. They're taken back up to court. One survives, one does not. But Pharaoh learns of him. And so Pharaoh has a dream. And it has to do with 7 fat cows and then 7 skinny, ill cows. And he says, and somebody says, remember, there's this guy down in the jail who interprets dreams. He's connected to dream work. And so Pharaoh brings him up into the court and says, interpret my dream. And he said, I've had it twice. And Joseph said, oh, if you've had it twice, it means it is fixed by God. You need to really pay attention. And he interpreted it as 7 years of feast and then 7 years of famine. And so because of the dream, Joseph is taken from the depth of the prison up into Pharaoh's court. He interprets the dream and tells him, and so because of that, Pharaoh says, I'm going to put you in charge of preparing the stores during the 7 years of feast, so when the 7 years of famine come, we'll have what we need. The dream work was underpinning all of these outer experiences, both from the depths to the breadth of life. And so he does that, and then an interesting thing happens, is the famine is everywhere, and so Joseph's brothers come to Pharaoh's court to buy wheat, sheaves of wheat, because they're starving. And so he recognizes his brothers. There's a whole complex story around that. But ultimately, the brothers come to him and ask him, please, please. They were like bowing down to him. We need food for our people. And he reconnects with them. At first, he tries to pretend like he doesn't know them because he wants to see what they're like now. And he realizes forgiveness, our word for today, that in whatever happens, that presence of God is there. Unseen blessings already on their way. And so he reconnects, reveals himself. His father learns he hasn't died after all, and the family is reunited. And the people back home get the stores that they need to survive. And so this wonderful story of ins and outs and family dynamics and all of the things we all experience in different ways in our lives. And that the presence of God was always there. And that for Joseph, the portal to connect to that related to dreams and the dream time. In the New Testament at Christmas, I always talk about how the other Joseph, who was Jesus's father in the earthly plane, had 3 dreams where he's visited by angels. The angels come and he listens to these dreams because he knows they're important. The angel in the first one tells him, please take Mary as your wife and raise the child as your own. So he goes against all cultural mores and does that. After Jesus is born, the angel in a dream tells him, go to Egypt to save the child. He goes to Egypt, doesn't know what's going to happen, but trusts the guidance and goes to Egypt. And then many years later, an angel comes in a dream again and says it's time to return back home. And so they do. So I love these characters in the Bible, and it's interesting they're both named Joseph, that dreams were profoundly important in their journeys through life, and trusting the insight, the inspiration, the bridge between that unsung, unheard song of the birds, that abiding presence. Your dreams are a place where you can hear that song. And so I invite you to open, to deepen your presence in your dream life as it inspires and guides you on the outer life of your soul. I happened to see a video this week that talked about Edgar Casey, who really stressed dreams and said, if you want to remember your dreams, because I know for some it's difficult, he says, before you go to sleep at night, say 3 times, first of all, set your intention, what you'd like, insight, guidance, comfort around. And then 3 times as you're laying down to fall asleep, I will remember my dream. I will remember my dream. I will remember my dream. And then first thing in the morning as you awaken, before you do anything else, open, what was the gift of my dream? What was the gift of my dream? What was the gift of my dream? And then take that and incorporate it in, knowing it's just one of many, many ways to connect with that unseen spirit that is always and ever with you. So may you have interesting dreams this week. May they inspire and guide you. And may your deep knowing be revealed to you in whatever way will touch you the clearest and the deepest, whether it's in dreams, in prayer, in meditation, in chants or music or walking in nature. This is just one of many ways. So may you open to hear that unsung song that underlies your life, that is the presence of God. Blessings this week and always.